I think that we are going to see week to week a different quote unquote best safety. And I know that that's been difficult because the Chiefs just came off of all pro Tyrann Mathieu, for the first part of Spags' career, right into Justin Reed, who was most weeks the best safety that the Chiefs have and also the highest paid. Now there's a bunch of guys. It's going to feel a little bit amoebic. Some games are going to be Brian Cook games. Some games might be Jaden Hicks games. Some games might be Chamari Connor games or Christian Woolen Wallace games. We're going to see matchup specific stuff. And I like that. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of 21 Questions, the Chiefs question and answer show on KC Sports Network. I am Craig Stout, and I am joined by my very good pal, A to Z Sports, Charles Goldman. Charles, how we doing today, buddy?
We're so much closer to football. I mean, we had like a full slate of college football this weekend, but we are so much closer to NFL football. I cannot wait.
I know. No, we've got a great question about college football, so I don't want to go too much into college football coming up here, but it felt real. Like, again, college football week 0 was fun. Not going to say it wasn't fun. It was fun, but it felt like we were in the thick of it again, like it was starting to build towards it. We are recording this on a Sunday morning. August 31st, at the time that we are recording this. This would be when I would normally be, ingesting a bunch of coffee, gearing up for NFL football, and we don't have that today. So we're this close, Charles. We're almost there. We're 1 week away. It's certainly not 1 week away from the Kansas City Chiefs opener this Friday against the Los Angeles Chargers. But yeah, Charles, you ready to rip some questions on the show here?
I'm ready. Lay them on.
All right. These questions come from the KCSN Discord. If you are a subscriber to the KCSN Substack, where you are getting things like Herbie Teope's, daily newsletters, and as we get into the season, you're going to want those sorts of things. If you are a subscriber, you get access to the KCSN Discord. You can ask the questions that are in this show. We are going to start with B. Higgs asking the question, what is one thing you could see from the Chiefs before the bye week that would make you feel like this team is headed for another Super Bowl, Charles?
This might seem crazy, but like that they can run the ball. I think like if this team learns this year that they have invested as much as they have in their very athletic offensive line, and that they can actually use that, and that they have some pieces who can be successful in using that on various downs and distances. If they learn that this year, which, that's a big question, can they? But if they can, I think they're going to be able to, just with how much more explosive the passing game is. Their tight end group is really good too, right? You can run some more 13 personnel looks, and if you can run the ball in 13 personnel and then throw the ball in 13 personnel, you're doing pretty good. So I think that would be the one telltale sign to me. If by let's say by week 10, right? That's the bye week. They're at the very least middle of the pack in rushing yards, if not like upper top 10. That would be something that would tell me, okay, this team's not messing around.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway from the preseason was how that offensive line moved bodies in the different concepts that they put in front of them. It was still a lot of inside zone, outside zone looks, but some gap looks as well. For all of the hand-wringing about Kingsley Suamata'ia's pass protection, he was pretty damn good in run blocking. So I don't know. It felt like they were moving bodies a lot more than they were. I like that one a lot, Charles, especially since Chiefs bye week is week 10. So definitely, it's after the trade deadline. So if the run game's not going and they're prioritizing an addition, I feel like all of that can work out. Mine is just simply get Rashee Rice fully integrated into this offense before the bye week. If Rashee Rice, obviously 6-game suspension. He's coming back, going to be back week 7. That's going to be 3 games before he is going to be able to take this bye week. It's going to take a little bit for him to get integrated. I know that, young kid, I'm not worried about him athletically, but you take 6 weeks off of getting hit, that's going to take a toll. It's going to take you just a second to get reintegrated into this offense, reintegrated into playing football again. I don't expect that it's going to take long, but if he hits the ground running from the top there, basically right when he walks in the building, I already know that they've got the field stretching ability. I already know that they've got some stuff that they can do in the middle of the field, like you said, with these tight ends. Seems like they're going to use the running backs in the passing game maybe a little bit more than we had seen. And again, if the running game goes as well, they just need that guy that they can kind of hit on those glances, these RPOs, these things like that can break a tackle or evade a tackle and take it 15 yards, 20 yards. That's, they don't have that element without Rashee Rice right now in the fold. So if he comes in and he hits the ground running and that stuff is working, they really can attack every blade of grass on the field in this offense. And that gets really, really scary. And so, again, I know that both of us looking at the offense here, I think we both have confidence that Steve Spagnuolo is going to figure out the defense before the playoffs. Like, it could be rough at this point with the defense. We'll see. But I think that this team is geared up in the way to put a bunch of points on the board. So, yeah, if Rashee walks in and it's working, if the run game is working, I think we see, a lot of success for this team. Multiple ways to win rather than just, hey, Spags, go do your thing and let's try and eke out enough points. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you look that week 7 game that he comes back for, it's the Raiders. That's a great game to get up for, right? Like you could have a big one that week. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And that's a team that's still figuring out their defense too. So
for sure. All right. Shades of Blaylock asks this one. Would you have made that trade for Micah Parsons, Charles?
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Like, I know there are some reservations being that he's not like the prototypical like Spags player, but I feel like, when you have he's in like the upper echelon, right? Like when you have a player like that, you can figure out ways to use him. And we're reaching a point where we're going to have to find, in Steve Spagnuolo's defense, like where can he build around for the future, right? Like a Micah Parsons trade would tell you, okay, we're going to build around Micah for the future. Like we have our plan for after Chris Jones. Right now, there's not really much of a plan for after Chris Jones. Maybe it's like McDuffie, I know that George is going to be part of it as like a tertiary piece, but not as like the centerpiece. So who is the centerpiece of the Chiefs defense in the next like 3 or 4 years from now? And I don't know that we know the answer of that yet. Maybe they were playing college football yesterday.
Yeah, maybe they were. I mean, I think at a glance, if it's Steve Spagnuolo that's still the defensive coordinator 3-4 years from now, it's still Nick Bolton, that the literal centerpiece of this. But just because he's an on-field DC for Steve Spagnuolo, I'm with you though. Like, I really love Trent McDuffie. He is a crucial piece of this defense. I want to see him get paid in Kansas City. However, cornerback play is very volatile. Defensive line play tends to be a lot more consistent. And this is one of the, and I'm just coming up with the number off the top of my head, don't ask me to explain it, one of the 3 to 5 true needle movers on defense in the entire NFL. But I think, yes, I absolutely would have made that trade. The Packers gave up Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark is not as good as Chris Jones. And I know the giant cap hit with Chris Jones, it wasn't going to be a feasible thing for the Chiefs. Let's throw the money aspect of this aside, which, again, Micah Parsons' contract, we got to throw that aside too. If I were the Chiefs, yeah, I would have tried to figure out a way to see if, even though you might lose a Chris Jones, you are turning around and saying, okay, we're still building through the defensive line like we did with Chris Jones, but this is a 26-year-old player that may be a future Hall of Famer. I mean, like he has orchestrated the beginning of his career to basically set himself up for that. If he continues this, he's a first ballot guy. So I don't know. I would definitely have made that trade. That is a lot of money. The Chiefs do not have a lot of money to throw at a guy like that, and especially if you were having to give up a guy like Chris Jones and pay a lot of dead money. Like it didn't make sense from that point of view. I get why they weren't in there, but frankly, 2 first-round picks and an older defensive tackle, yes, absolutely. That feels, I don't know. Micah, Khalil Mack went for 2 firsts and a third and a sixth, if I remember right. I don't know. It feels, Micah Parsons feels better than where Khalil Mack was to me personally. I know that some people disagree there. I think that he probably should have gone for more, but again, up against the start of the season, the Cowboys definitely didn't do themselves any favors maximizing his trade value there. I get why it was this, but man, I I would have absolutely added that guy to my football team.
Yeah, and you look at the timing of it, like you mentioned.
Mhm.
They really bungled that. They could have got more for him if they had done this much earlier in the offseason, or
Later
even
this
just
year,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
or even just figured out a way to like sweeten the pot for like 1 year, keep him, and then trade him ahead of the draft next year or something like that. You could have gotten so much more out of it. I feel like, but the thing about Parsons for me that I love is like he's a true like chess piece for the entire front
Oh my
seven.
goodness.
Like you
Yes.
can play him literally anywhere on the front seven, and he is a mismatch nightmare going to make a play. So like that's a rare type of player. You don't get those too
You don't.
often. And
You don't.
yeah, I would definitely instantly add him to this defense if I could.
Micah Parsons is the player that I always fall in love with in the draft process where I'm like, you could do anything with him. Like, you could line him up all over the defense. He could be anywhere for you, and it rarely works out. Those guys typically
Yep.
need a structured role to be in. He is one of the few guys where, no, no, you really can use him at the second level, on the line of scrimmage, inside. You can use him a little bit everywhere. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. Chief Golden Colorado asks us, so is Shamari Connor really the best safety on this team? Loaded question there, Charles.
Um, I'm gonna say no. I
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's just interesting that the safety role has changed. I think in
Mhm.
Steve Spagnuolo's defense over the years, where I think when he was with the Giants, it was more of a rigid, like defined couple of roles, and now like he, I look at this defense and specifically the group of players they kept on the 53, and that secondary is so versatile. You have so many guys who can do so many different things on a given snap, right? That like the arguing like who's the best. I don't know that any of them are going to be the best at any one given thing, but the fact that they can do it all and rotate from safety spots to nickel to dime to even some of them can play outside corner, right? Like, um, I think that throughout the season this year they'll probably have kind of a progression and a realization of like who's best at what. And I think
Mhm.
they realized at some point during the preseason this year they were like, "Hey, Chris Roland Wallace actually has some really good range on the back end and can play single high for us, right?" And that was kind of a realization that they didn't have last season, that they didn't know about him, and kind of the evolution of his game. But um, yeah, I think just the fact that like you can even at the cornerback room, right? You can have a guy like Trent McDuffie who's playing outside for 2 downs and then slides inside, and then you can have some of those safeties roll out back to like traditional safety, when like a Chamari Connor, right, who had been maybe in the slot for those first 2 snaps. So it's just it gives Spags so many pieces that he can play with, um that I think having that is better than having just one guy who's like really good at this one specific role. So I know that's
Yes.
not technically answering your question, I'm sorry, but that's how I feel right now.
No, I I think you're spot on there. Every single one of them has different strengths that are going to be very matchup specific. I think we saw in the preseason there that, especially in week 3, we saw a little bit of Trent McDuffie in the slot, which of course I got ridiculously excited about. But Jaden Hicks has been playing in the slot. Christian Roland Wallace has been playing in the slot. You've seen Shamari Connor play in the slot plenty. You've also seen all those guys play deep safety. You've seen some of that. I think the only thing that I feel comfortable saying, and I can't wait for week 1 to come out and for this to be just proven wrong, is that Brian Cook is probably not going to be playing in the slot. I think that's the one statement that I could make about the safety room right now and feel pretty comfortable about that. But everybody else, it just kind of shifts and evolves, and we see different game plans. And I know people are tired of seeing the Chiefs give up a bunch of yards from the slot, and they're a little bit worried about the safeties based on weeks 1 and 2 of the preseason. Me too. Put my hand up on that. But it looked a lot different in week 3 when you had Nick Bolton out there, there was a clear dividing line between what happened in week 2, where they had to be on the West Coast for 2 straight weeks without game planning. And it just, and that Seattle Seahawks run game is very punishing. I think it was very much a wave the white flag in week 2, not intentionally, it just kind of subconsciously there. I feel like the coaching staff got them kind of squared away for preseason week 3. And now all of a sudden, everybody looks a lot better. You've got everything a lot more organized. People are passing things off. Coverages look like they're supposed to on the back end. All of a sudden, people are filling run lanes. There was a lot of positives coming from the safety room in week 3. And I know that Shamari Connor has been this guy that has had this steady increase in his role over the past 2 years. When the Chiefs drafted him, he's one of those guys that we had a lot of conversations about. Where does he line up? Is he a slot guy? Is he a safety? What is he? Is he a box guy? What do you want to do with this guy? He is enough of a weapon. He's explosive. He's a good blitzer. He can play on the back end a little bit. I like him playing top down a little bit more than I do with him in the slot, but he is a good run stuffer, good defender up front too, so I see the need for that. Suffice to say, I think that we are going to see week to week a different quote unquote best safety. And I know that that's been difficult because the Chiefs just came off of all pro Tyrann Mathieu, for the first part of his Fags' career, right into Justin Reed, who was most weeks the best safety that the Chiefs have and also the highest paid. Now there's a bunch of guys. It's going to feel a little bit amoebic. Some games are going to be Brian Cook games. Some games might be Jaden Hicks games. Some games might be Shamari Connor games or Christian Roland Wallace games. We're going to see matchup specific stuff. And I like that as a defensive guy. I think that makes sense, coming from all of the studies and everything that I do, a lot of the collegiate schemes, that's where the defense builds from. That's where the new innovations build up from high school and college. You have so many more guys on your roster in college and high school that you can have those matchups and you can play those sorts of things. It is hard to get a true amoebic secondary in the NFL and guys that can kind of try and fit different niches and roles, and it feels like the Chiefs at least have that in their safety room right now. May mean that they don't have a high-end starter, like crazy high-end starter, but they might be able to piece it together with a whole bunch of other stuff there, Charles.
I think just like instinctually, when you look at some of these guys, like Shamari Connor, really good instincts in both the pass and the run, to be honest. Blitzing, right? Same goes for Jaden Hicks, and I think like that's something that you can't necessarily teach. That's like a really good base to have in a Spags defense. So I'm cautiously optimistic about those guys that, one of them can emerge as a consistent playmaker. Maybe that's something we're looking at on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah,
by week 10.
maybe. Yeah, week 10, we're sitting there being like, okay, well, that guy's the clear safety one. That would be a good, well, potentially good problem to have. I got ready to say it's a good problem to have. It may be because the other two are not great. Who knows? But yeah. All right. Corey asks this here. What game will be the sky is falling, in quotes, game for Chiefs fans this year? The one that I think we all know what he's referring to, but just kind of reading between the lines, the game that the Chiefs shouldn't have lost, or a game that the Chiefs look terrible in that everybody points to and goes, what the hell is that?
I could see like week 3 against the Giants on
Uh,
national TV against that defensive line. And then
uh-huh.
let's say they come out there the first 2 weeks with Russell Wilson as their starter and he's not great. And then week 3, they decide to make the switch to Jackson Dart and you don't really have any tape on him. So he comes out and the defense is struggling because you're going against a guy you don't know anything about. You don't have anything to really game plan off of. And then the offense is struggling because they're going against like the best defensive line in football potentially. I could see that being like the game that, especially if let's say they come out, stomp the Chargers week 1. Next week they have like a close loss with like the Eagles, and then they just
Sure.
get like creamed by the Giants in week 3. I could see that being the sky is falling game. The fans having the dynasty is over. I
Mhm.
could definitely see that being it.
I I like that one a lot just because Dexter Lawrence alone could wreck that game for the Chiefs front. I mean, I love Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. Dexter Lawrence is just on another level right now, and those edge rushers are terrifying, absolutely terrifying. That might be the best defensive line in football. Maybe Houston Texans up there as well, which the Chiefs play later on that season. But that would not be like, I think if the Houston Texans came out and got them, like really got after them, I think everybody would be like, oh, yeah, no, that's supposed to happen. Like, yeah, Houston Texans are a fairly competent team. I like that one because the Giants should not be contending with the Chiefs. I'm going later in the season here. I'm going with week 12 against the Indianapolis Colts. That's right. The Indianapolis Colts should not be in the same league as the Kansas City Chiefs, especially at that point in the season. Who knows who's starting then, whether it's Daniel Jones, whether it's Anthony Richardson, whether it's what Riley Leonard's on that. Riley Leonard's getting a start at some point this season. I'm looking at it as an ugly game because Lou Anarumo comes out and just muddies this up for the Kansas City Chiefs, a game that they should absolutely, talent wise, scheme wise, all of that, they should come out and run over the Indianapolis Colts in that game. And it's an AFC South matchup. The Chiefs, I don't know what it is. They don't like playing AFC South teams unless it's the Texans. They have no problem playing the Texans, but like the Titans, the Colts, like just one of these things that just kind of feels like a suffocating moment when you're going up against those teams. And Lou Anarumo is the kind of guy to just kind of make them feel like they're playing with the opposite hand. And so that just seems like one that get to the end, Chiefs win it. Like I'm calling a Chiefs win in that one, but like it's a
17-16 win.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like a 17-16 or a 17-14 where the Colts miss a field goal to tie late in the game and you just come off of it feeling ick. That's the kind of thing. I think that will be kind of a sky is falling game. And then they'll turn around and beat the crap out of the Cowboys, Texans, Chargers, Titans, Broncos, and Raiders to finish the season. We'll all forget about that Colts game at some point. So that's my personal nomination there.
Yeah.
All right. Dylan, I like this one a lot. Fondest or most memorable Chiefs memory from growing up, Charles?
I remember I had like a school event. I have like pictures and stuff from it. I think I've posted on X before, but like me and all my friends went and we got to like hang out with Casey Wolf. We got to meet some of the players. We got to get like signed gear and like I got footballs, a picture, and a jersey. Actually, I have it behind me in a drawer, signed by Marcus Allen. It was just awesome. Such an awesome memory. I think that was probably the best one. If I had to put a a memory out there, but there's so many good ones, man. This team
Yeah.
has been a big part of forming my life. So
Yes. I have a ton. I remember, sitting around the TV when I was young, watching Derek Thomas, watching Christian Okoye, watching some of those. I did get to go to, a snow game in the early 90s that was really, really memorable. I remember the Chiefs fumbled an early kickoff and kind of got themselves in a little bit of a hole in the first half. And it was ridiculously cold. I don't, at this point, I probably 8, 9, something like that. And ridiculously cold to the point where we debated leaving the game because it was just not going the Chiefs' way and it was just brutal. I'm a kid. We stuck it out. Chiefs come back, make a big comeback, win the game. It was a wonderful experience, but that was my first real Arrowhead experience, and it was watching Christian Okoye and watching him run over dudes and just that giant aesthetic, the huge pads, and the neck roll and things that so many people of our age really fell in love with. That sticks out to me for sure. But then it's
you're probably wearing a jersey that was made by Starter, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I had a Starter jacket, one of the ones with the pouch in the front. It was one of those. Yes, absolutely. It was a great time there to be able to go out there, be a Chiefs fan. It wasn't a ton of success. I mean, I remember my mom was a track and field coach for our high school. I remember being at Kansas Relay, KU Relays in Lawrence when the Joe Montana trade was announced. This is a high school track and field event, and they stopped the event to get on the broadcast and say, "Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Montana has been traded to the Kansas City." It was a big deal. Like, I mean, that was the biggest thing in the world at that point in time, in my world. So yeah, lots of very fond memories of growing up there with the Chiefs as a part of that. All right, we are going to take ourselves a break, and we will be right back with more of your questions right after this.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
Calling all Chiefs fans, you could be on the field at the 50 inside GEHA Field for the official coin toss at a Chiefs home game this season. Visit Chiefs.com/GEHA now. Enter to win a chance to be on the field for a once-in-a-lifetime view of the pre-game coin toss. Plus, you can score other exclusive prizes. Enter for a chance to win at Chiefs.com/GEHA. GEHA is the proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs.
What's up, guys? I'm BJ Kissel, founder and CEO of KC Sports Network, and I'm here to talk to Kansas City businesses. If you rely on technology, you need an IT support team that's not just another vendor, but a true IT partner. That's why I want to introduce you to my friend and neighbor, KJ Miller. He is a VCIO at ThrottleNet, the Midwest's highest rated and most reviewed IT support company. They've been in business for more than 25 years, helping companies stay secure, productive, and ahead of the curve. They aren't just IT support, but they provide data security, IT strategy, and cloud software services. They do it all, and their reviews show they do it better than anyone else. So if you want to hear about how ThrottleNet can help your local business, join the conversation with myself, KJ Miller from ThrottleNet, and our resident genius from KC Sports Network when it comes to IT, at least as he's affectionately known by us, Mr. Craig Stout. Click the link in the description to hear how ThrottleNet can help you.
Welcome back, everybody. Craig Stout, Charles Goldman. We are here answering your questions from the KCSN Discord. We have been answering a bunch of Chiefs questions here. I'm going to pivot us to a college football question, Charles. Guy, it's semi-new to the Discord here. Ask a very good question. I think a lot of people kind of echoed here. Name is Zig. He says, I miss being able to be passionate about college football. I just don't like that it's become kind of crappy professional football, referring to transfers, NIL, money out in the open. He agrees that players should be financially compensated, but we're in strange times from a spectator's perspective. He said, if you still love it, how? What does he need to do to be able to see the Matrix again? That was the question here, Charles. I feel like this is an excellent one. That's why I wanted to kind of table the college football discussion, because this is something that I think I can personally dive into, but I'll throw it to you first.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's just the NIL stuff. I kind of ignore it, to be honest. Like, the transfer portal, NIL money, all of it to me doesn't matter. Like the product on the field is what I get excited about. And even though that kind of dilutes it a little bit, like there's a little bit, you might have a team that has like 75 new players on it that's going up against like a powerhouse in week 1. But the beauty of that is that like crazy things can still happen. Like you can still have the fake quarterback sneak throw between the legs, jump pass touchdown against that team, right? You can still have the fun, crazy moments, the catches, the things that we get excited about. I feel like anyways, regardless of all that stuff. So, I mean, for me, it's just that the product on the field, keep watching the guys and what's going on between the hash marks, and you'll enjoy it. If that's your thing, but yeah, I wouldn't get too caught up in the transfers and this and that. At the end of the day, I mean, I think the great equalizer is coaching. It always has been in the NFL and in college football. So you have yourself with a good coach, you should be set no matter what.
I think it's fun, even from an NIL perspective. I mean, because let's be honest, this was all happening before. Let's not pretend like money was not changing hands here. They were buying players before. This is just a little bit more formalized version of it. Certainly needs to be looked at a little bit. I think some guidelines need to be placed on it on both sides of the thing there, players and the schools themselves and everything like that, because there's just a lot of Wild West happening right now with that. But the good teams have always been good. I mean, before NIL was out in the open, Alabama and Georgia were good at football. Texas was good at football. Well, and maybe, you understand what I'm saying there. Maybe I'm a little quick, to throw Texas in with that group, but the good teams were already good. So I know that people look at this a lot and say, hey, makes the rich get richer, essentially here. I don't know that I agree with that. I think that was always there. I think that this gives people the ability for some of these schools that maybe didn't have football programs that were a priority to be able to have alumni come in and be like, let's make football a priority. Let's start seeing if we can play around in NIL a little bit here. We've got some opportunities to try and bring in some bigger and better talent. And it does increase kind of the middle of it a little bit more. It expands it to the point where we're seeing teams that frankly shouldn't be in the conversation that get in the conversation a lot quicker because they're able to compete with that. The transfer part of it is something that I know that a lot of people don't like with this. There's no school loyalty anymore and all of that. I understand where people are coming from that perspective, but I look at it from a guy like Tacario Davis, Arizona cornerback that I am a big fan of. He's just this giant dude. He's beating people up at the line of scrimmage, a press corner. Maybe has some questions athletically, was a guy that was maybe in the conversation as a top 50 pick last year in last year's NFL draft. Didn't have a great season at Arizona. Just wasn't up there. Didn't really, get the kind of, to Charles's point, didn't really get the kind of coaching that he wanted. Goes out there, hits the transfer portal, ends up at Washington. Washington is a cornerback factory right now. I am excited about Tacario Davis. I was already excited about him. I'm more excited because he's getting that coaching over there at Washington. I feel like it's a little bit better. I'm going to be paying attention to the Washington Huskies a little closer because that guy transferred there. And so while it means, if you are a fan of a team, like let's say, if you're listening to this in the Kansas City area, you're a KU, K-State, Missouri fan, that's the team that you root for. It is frustrating to watch these guys come and go and to try and get in the rat race with that. But from a just pure college football watching experience, paying attention to prospects, as Charles and I do here, we've got preferences with teams and things like that. But we are there also to see these players and these different schemes and all of that. The transfer part of that matters a lot because you get to see guys with different coaching, how they take to some of that stuff. I know the NFL loves that, by the way. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. It's like, oh, hey, we don't have any questions about this guy being able to translate to a different scheme because we saw it already. We saw how that happened. And then finally, college football is the true underdog sport. That is where it comes from. You have guys that are cast-offs from other teams that maybe aren't playing at the level that you would expect. Tommy Castellanos, Boston College quarterback last year, not a good quarterback. I want to be abundantly clear here. Struggles to throw the ball down the field, just doesn't have the sort of accuracy. Yeah, he's got legs. He can kind of run the ball a little bit. Goes to Florida State, gets put into an offensive scheme with Gus Malzahn that is, high school, fun college football, like all kinds of crazy end around motions and different looks and, backwards passes and shit. It's fun to watch that sort of stuff with a guy like that shouldn't be beating a team like Alabama out there and the kind of 5-star talent that they have on the field. The ability to put him into an offense like that, go off and have the kind of success, that's what makes me passionate about college football. And what makes me feel like college football is a worthy usage of your time. So I don't know. I still have all the love in the world for college football and everything that it brings to the table there. I think it's just making those mid-tier teams better. So it makes my overall Saturday as I'm watching, or Thursday or Friday or whenever I'm watching college football, makes it a more complete day because any one of these teams can compete with the big guys at any point in time now. Whew. That was a long-winded answer.
It was a good answer.
Trying to say I love college football, but yeah.
I do like the point that you brought up about like the scheme transference, right? Like you're getting guys like that's one thing that you're getting now that I think NFL, like you said, is really loving. You're getting guys who are like their football IQ is a little bit stronger than maybe it was before because they're stuck in like basically for the most part one system for their entire college career, and then I remember like a guy like Jared Wiley. He was like, "This is like my 4th offense in as many years last year, right?" Like, and he was able to pick it up pretty quickly because of that. And I think you'll see his comfort level in year 2, coming back from that knee injury, in part because of his ability to learn those offenses throughout his college career.
Yep. Absolutely the case. Same goes for defense. Your cornerback that's played in a number of different schemes. Steve Spagnuolo is paying attention because he wants to run everything. And, if you're a press man only corner, he's going to like you to a certain point, but then it's going to fall off a cliff when you can't play zone. So, yeah, that's part of it. Okay, some rapid hitters here. Chief gap year. Over under on Mahomes passing TDs. I'll set the line at 40.5.
I'll take the over. He's got a lot of mouths to feed this year. I'll take the over.
He does. I think it's over this year. I think there's a lot better weapons. I think that offensive line matters so much. It really does, guys. Like he's not just going to try to back of his drop immediately out. I think we're going to see more creative Mahomes again. So yeah, I'd agree. Over on that one here. How long, this is from Carrender, how long can we expect Chris Jones to keep playing? What's your thought on that?
Is he 31 right now? That's all.
Is it 30 or 31? I'm looking that up. Yeah.
I'd say at least 5 more years either way.
31. Turned 31 in July. Yeah.
I'd say 5 more years. I think, he's someone that I think will be motivated a little bit by legacy and, what happens these next couple of years is going to matter to that. If they're back in the mix this year and, he feels like he wants to ride off into the sunset after another, Super Bowl or something like that. I could totally see that happening too. I think right now he still has the desire to play though. And he's still playing at a really high level. So I think so long as he can do that, he'll still be out there.
Yeah. I say at least 3. At least 3. Chris's game as a penetrator is going to be tied to his athleticism a bit. It really is going to be tied to his athleticism a bit, but he's done a good job of taking care of his body Like, I think that we've seen it over the years. Maybe when he was younger, he just, and this is all of us, but I want to be clear. This is every single one of us and every single Chief. I mean, Travis Kelce admits to it as well. You just kind of take for granted, what you got there. And so I think Chris already has had that realization of, oh, I got to really be focused on my body and taking care of my body and making sure that I'm in good shape. And so I think that is going to help him play for at least another 3 years at a pretty high level. So I think that that's where it is. And I think that that's going to inform a lot of the defensive decisions over the next 3 years. I know that everybody wants more depth on the defensive tackle room, myself included, but Chris Jones is playing at a high level. You kind of get to, well, it's coming eventually, but Chiefs are seeing that and saying, oh, we're actually set at 3 tech for a little while here. So
I do think that the other fact of this too, his defensive player of the year aspirations, right? If he can get there in the next couple of years, that could play a factor as well.
And that's absolutely the case. Yeah, absolutely. He wants the legacy items now. That is absolutely what it is. I think he's already a Hall of Famer. Want to be clear there. I think he's already a Hall of Famer. He wants to be a no doubt, unequivocal first ballot Hall of Famer, and a defensive player of the year award and another Super Bowl. Like, you have zero questions about him at that point. And
you can walk away from the game at that point. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. That might be one where I'm defensive player of the year. I win a Super Bowl. Who knows how many years he's got at the end of his contract? He might just go, you know what, guys, that might be it for me. That is what I wanted to achieve. So that does matter. I like that. All right. Last quick one here before we pivot away from football here, because I mean, it's you and I on a podcast. We're going to get questions about a bunch of other stuff here. Yeah. So Cold Queso says, thoughts on Christian Wilkins? Could he help fill the nose tackle role? This is specifically Pennel or Mike Pennel role, but the nose tackle role.
I mean, I guess we'll see when he's healthy, if he's healthy at all. And I could see that being a thing. I think at this point, if Mike doesn't get another job, I would call him first. But yeah, that situation's not great for sure.
Yeah, it's not. It seems like Mike's upset. Understandably so. I get it. That whole situation's not great. This is a business, and that sucks sometimes to watch guys like that go through that. But I don't know. If Christian Wilkins was healthy right now, he would be on an NFL roster.
Yes, he would.
Simple. I mean, he's already getting paid an obscene amount of money by the Raiders at the moment. So he could take a vet minimum contract and still be making a ton of money this year. If he really wanted to stick it to the Raiders or do any of that, he would be on a roster already. And the fact that he's not tells me that maybe that knee's not where it needs to be.
He's not healthy. He definitely isn't healthy. The knees, I've had it described to me as cooked. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if he will ever be, a long-term solution. That's really what the Chiefs need right now. Like, I know they got Omar and Norman Lott in there, but Veach has said it just as recent as a couple of days ago. Like they have to find and get better and younger at this position. They have a couple of former 3rd-round draft picks on the practice squad now, and Broderick Martin and Zach Pickens. Maybe they can get one of those guys into the system and the light bulb comes on for them. I would think that would be the ideal situation for them, because they both still have, years of control and whatnot. But I think, Wilkins is no more than like maybe a couple week Band-Aid for you. If you get to that point this season, I think, what Veach said is that they tried to trade for Juwan Briggs, right?
Yeah.
So I think, when it comes to the trade deadline time, I would be looking around the league for young defensive tackles who might have a couple years of control left, or guys who could potentially be, extended on the cheap. That's who I would be looking at right away.
Yeah. I thought it was very surprisingly transparent about that. And part of that I'm sure is him just trying to get out in front of the fact that, why'd you guys screw over Mike Pennel? You know, the optics of that are not great. So him just trying to be like, listen, this isn't just, oh, hey, we were bringing back Derek Nottie come hell or high water. It was, no, we were looking for a while at this position and trying to get better as we got closer to cut down day and just couldn't make it happen. And Derek Nottie was then the guy. Like, it sounded like he was the fallback plan, which, got a problem with the fallback plan. I'm not going to sit here and try and talk you off the ledge, but it wasn't just, oh, well, we're just trading for Derek Nottie because. No, they were actively trying to evaluate that position, not just with guys that had been on the roster before.
He even said with Nottie, though, he was like, they played about the same amount of snaps. It wasn't like, oh, he's better, flat out than Mike. It was like they played,
Right.
So
yeah, they played the same amount. I get that Nottie is younger. I liked what we saw out of Pennel a little bit better last year, but I like Derek Nottie too. I don't know. It feels like we're splitting hairs, and I think that's what the problem was with most Chiefs fans. It was, wait, aren't they roughly equivalent? Why was there a trade? And again, like you said, doesn't mean that Mike Pennel is definitely not coming back at any point this season. He may be angry now, but paycheck's a paycheck. I remember a specific player. I won't mention the name, but with a particularly hard-ass Chiefs coach that in St. Joe in the middle of summer. And this particular player had moved on from the Chiefs and swore that he was never going to play for this particular coach again because he was really, really a real stickler, hard-ass, and in the heat of St. Joe. Sure enough, Chiefs signed with the 90-man roster, and somebody asked him, was like, well, I thought you said you wouldn't be playing for this guy. He goes, hey, paycheck's a paycheck. That's that's how it goes. So a lot of things smooth over with a little bit of money there. So
with Big Mike, he might not be available. The Chiefs might come to regret this. Like, there's a team that he started his career at that just traded a defensive tackle to the Dallas Cowboys.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
You never know.
You do. You do.
What's good, everyone? It is KCSN betting analyst Benny Heiss. Something hit me as I was driving to the Missouri side, ironically, for something not available on the Kansas side. I cross over. I just can't get over how long sports fans in the state of Missouri have been waiting. It feels like forever. Good news is you don't have to wait much longer because DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is finally coming to the Show Me State. If you're thinking, yeah, but I got to wait on the sidelines until December 1st, it's not true. You can sign up right now. And when we go live, new Missouri customers get $300 in bonus bets just for placing a $5 bet. $5. That's not even as much as a pumpkin spice latte that's going to take over. So it's not some ragtag sports, but this is DraftKings. You got live in-game betting. So if your team starts hot, you could jump in mid-play. There's lightning fast payouts. None of that wait 3 days for your money nonsense. And you've got more ways to get in on the action. There's no better way to start. It's all from your phone. When we go live, you'll be betting with a sportsbook trusted by millions, safe, secure, fast withdrawals, everything you want. Well, except maybe a guarantee that your team will cover the spread, but that part's still on you. So here's the move. You download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use code KCSN, and when we go live December 1st, that $5 bet turns into $300 in bonus bets. That is code KCSN in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus and physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after they are issued. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
All right, we're pivoting now away from football 2. These other ones. Shades of Blaylock. What's your favorite card game? He suggests Dominion, Magic, Poker, Rummy, etc. Charles, what's your favorite card game?
Recently I've been enjoying like Star Wars Unlimited. I think that's what the SWU. I enjoy that. That's a fun one.
Nice.
But no, I mean I'm a big blackjack fan if we're talking like more traditional like card games, right? But I'm a big fan of blackjack. You'll find me up in the mountains at a casino once or twice a year, playing some blackjack in a smoky room.
Yep. I from a traditional perspective, poker. I really like playing poker. I'm terrible at it. So, all of a sudden I'm going to get, Charles is going to be like, hey, we're starting a poker game, Craig. Come on over. I hear you're terrible at it, but you enjoy losing money. But it's, Dominion is one of those games from a pure board game perspective. I really enjoy, those sort of engine building games and things like that. I've got, if anybody's watching the video, I've got countless games behind me on this wall back here.
The game collection.
The game collection, yes, that Charles has seen before. It's it's one of those that I really enjoy that. So, Seamus asks, besides defense, beer, and food, man, just really cutting my legs out from under me here. What is your favorite topic you like to discuss with people and get passionate about, Charles?
Fishing, maybe.
Yeah, I was actually going to call my shot on that. I think I know what it is. I think it's fishing for Charles. Yeah,
yep, probably fishing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know Charles goes fishing a lot. He's invited.
Not as much as I'd like, but
sure, yeah. But yeah, no, that's a good one. Mine is music. I spent a lot of time at my day job prior to where I am now, designing audio equipment for private jets. And I have takes on music and things like that. I just, have always loved music. So I can spend an inordinate amount of time talking about, like obscure bands and audio profiles and all of that stuff. I'm really, really, really into music. So scrolling down here, let's see. I'm just going to acknowledge that Zach asked what strange butterfly effects happen to the world around you after you guys have lunch together. Nothing, Zach.
Nothing exciting. Well,
the Thai food place that we eat at gets a little bit more money in their pocket.
Yes.
That's the butterfly effect that occurs.
Well, wait a second. I mean, the butterfly effect that might occur from the last place we ate lunch at. We had lunch with a friend. You guys might know him, Real Bird Lawyer. Yeah. We had lunch at a barbecue joint nearby. We might be, maybe next time we're in there, we might talk to him about, hey, let's do a live podcast recording here, have some barbecue. They got a couple of Chiefs fans in there, so they might be okay with that.
They do. I was trying to see here. I thought that I had another one on the table here. We'll just go ahead and shoot. Casey from KC said, best restaurant you have been to ever. And I know that this doesn't fit, but I want to shout out Wayne's Smoke Shack out here. Charles took me to this place. I had not been there before. I have been asked if there is quality barbecue out here in Colorado several times by, not just on this podcast, but by several other people. I've always said, I found good enough barbecue. I've always referenced the good enough barbecue. Wayne's is legit. You need to find it if you are in this area. When I met up with Charles, I had brisket burn-end sausage, and it was incredible. And, you go in, they're wearing Royals hats, Chiefs shirts. It's a Texas barbecue joint as well. So, I mean, like, there's some Texas stuff in there, but like the areas that you would expect are going to make good barbecue. Charles was in front of me ordering, and Charles ordered brisket. And when Charles ordered brisket, it wasn't, oh, okay, I'm just going to cut you off a few slices of this. the woman who was cutting the brisket turned to Charles and said, okay, well, I've got flat, I've got point, I've got this nice center cut, I've got one back here, like offering up, like, what do you want? What sort of brisket are you looking for here? It was unreal. Like, it really was terrific. It would fit in amongst the top barbecue that I have ever had in Kansas City. And it's this, this spot that's essentially open from 11 until when they run out of food on Friday and Saturday. And that's it out here. So it was truly top notch. Wanted to at least shout them out there, Charles. So yeah. That's a great one, man.
Yeah, it's really good. And the fun thing is, like, it's good when you get there and there's like a line out front. Like I got there maybe like 20 minutes early, and there was still like a line, like basically like halfway around the block. And I'm like, okay, well, this is good stuff. I can tell. But yeah, man, they have great stuff there. But if we're talking best restaurants I've ever been to in Quintana Roo, Mexico, I went to a resort with my wife there for her anniversary. I guess it was last summer to celebrate it. We went last summer, and there's a restaurant there called Teodoro, which they do like a multi-course, menu. But one of the courses they had there, I think about it every day. It was so good. It was a tamal de lluvia, which is like they call it the rain tamale. Obviously, that's what it means in Spanish. But it's made with basically everything that grows during like the rainy season during that like area. So it's got like 4 different types of mushroom. It's got corn. It's got all this stuff, but it just the richness and the freshness of the flavors. One of the best meals I've ever had, but just that particular dish, like I'm still thinking about it today. So that one's definitely up there for me.
I love that. I'm gonna give a small shout out to, and I know people are gonna say this, Wichita, Kansas, sneaky good food town, really sneaky good food town. Gabby's Peruvian restaurant in Wichita, Kansas is literally a house that they remodeled and put some seating in. I love Peruvian food. They have made, my mouth is watering right now thinking about lomo saltado. Just absolutely unreal Peruvian food. It's all about, just kind of letting the food speak for itself. A little bit of spice, but not overwhelmingly spicy. A little salt, not overwhelmingly salty. Meat, potatoes, tomatoes, things like that. It's not something that you're going to look at and be like, wow, this is the most complex thing that I've ever had. But the simple ingredients all blend together, and this thing is just unreal. And that's Peruvian food largely. There are certainly exclusions to that, but I really think that they do it some of the best. And every time I go back to Wichita, it's just like, okay, so this night we're going to Gabby's and we're grabbing Peruvian food. And so, yeah, to the point where there's a very good Peruvian restaurant that's right here in the town that I live in, and it's actually ruined that Peruvian restaurant for me. It's good, but it's just not that level of good, unfortunately. So, all right. Last question that we've got here, Charles. This is Cut Bench Start. This is from Lee87 for movie franchises: Star Wars, Marvel, and Jurassic Park.
Well, I think like the astute listeners are already going to like realize what my answer is here.
Yes.
Because like here I am drinking out of like a Star Wars mug. I'm drinking my coffee out of a Star Wars mug. I mentioned a Star Wars card game earlier.
Already, yes. Yeah.
So I think you can assume that I'm going to start Star Wars. That's just, there's enough of backlog, obviously big original trilogy guy here, but like Andor, some of the cartoons, just incredible stuff. I would absolutely, there's enough there that you would absolutely start that. Probably bench Marvel until they figure their stuff out. They've had some hits and misses lately. I think they're on the right track though. We'll see. I'm excited for them to introduce X-Men into their little cinematic universe. And then I'm gonna cut Jurassic Park. I mean, I love the original, but that's about it.
I mean, that's I think I might switch Marvel and Star Wars. I really might, but you bringing the TV shows up there, I feel like the quality of the TV shows in the Star Wars universe has been better than the quality of the TV shows in the Marvel universe. I've enjoyed some of them, but it just hasn't been the same sort of hit rate that, I mean, certainly Andor, I mean, it is what it is. Jurassic Park is just I will watch the first Jurassic Park now, and then immediately after it finishes, and immediately I will never get sick of that movie. I have watched the Jurassic World movies, and it went from being this thing that it's more this complex problem that they're trying to solve, and hey, how much is too much, and some of the intricacies of what Michael Crichton put into the original Jurassic Park book, and kind of positing those dilemmas that you have to do. Now it's just, hey, it's dinosaurs and guns, and here's the fun things, and it just kind of it strays away from that. And I realize that I'm saying that while having Marvel on out there, which is just that, but it's never really pretended to be anything other than that. I feel like I'm cheating if I include any of the Spider-Man movies lately. I know that technically the Spider-Verse is not Marvel. I know, I completely agree, but the Spider-Verse stuff lately has just been unreal. Like, absolutely terrific movies. I thought Thunderbolts was fun lately. That was probably the only fun one that they've had out there in the world, but that run that they did up to Infinity War was so good, the way that they let that breathe and the vision that they had there, that it really is up there. I did introduce my daughter, 8-year-old daughter, to the original Star Wars trilogy with it over the past month, and so this might come back a little bit here and enter the starting conversation, because I mean, it was fun to rewatch that with somebody who'd not seen them before, and seeing the way all of this goes and all of that. I mean, we ended the first movie, and I said, "How did you like it?" And she went, "Why didn't Chewie get a medal?" Like, and I was like, "Okay, so that just kind of translates throughout all generations, apparently, like having a problem with the fact that Chewie couldn't get a medal." So I do think that maybe as I rewatch some of these, I do absolutely. but as we watch some of these other ones that maybe stick out in my head as being like, well, that was kind of a crappy storyline, I don't like the way that they did that, or something like that. Watching it with the eyes of an 8-year-old, 9-year-old next to me may help rekindle some of that, to where maybe I'm not going to be a stodgy old man about some of the Star Wars stuff that maybe I didn't like when I was in my early 20s or late 30s, early 40s, that sort of stuff. Watching it with the kid will help with that.
I'll tell you where Jurassic Park needs to go from here. They need to just make a straight dinosaur horror movie. Like, if you combine those two genres, you're going to resurrect the Jurassic Park franchise, because
absolutely,
that was what was so terrifying about the first one, right? Is like the horror elements, and like, you're thinking you're safe, and then all of a sudden it's just chaos, right? Like,
it's a low-key thriller, the first one. Like, it really is. They're out there in that. Or if you're going to do that, either do that or pivot fully, like they did with the Kong and Godzilla movies. Just pivot fully. I think that the way that they presented, like Kong Skull Island, the Godzilla movie, Kong versus Godzilla movies, are dumb. Don't try and look into the story any more than scratching the surface, because the moment you start uncovering, it's like that. No. How did one person with a fake key card get into the most high security? All of this stuff. It makes no sense whatsoever, but it is dumb fun. And so they either need to fully embrace just the dumb fun element of, we have dinosaurs, yay, or go that way. I really believe that. Go towards a thriller way to try and bring it back to that. Because right now it feels like they're trying to be like, well, we're kind of serious about this, but there are some dumb fun elements. And you straddle that line. It's a very difficult one to do. So, all right. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of 21 Questions. I want to thank my good pal, Charles Goldman from A to Z Sports, for joining us. Charles, anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Nothing in particular. We've got a brand new redesigned website that has launched. So please check us out over at atozsports.com. And you can catch me every Wednesday on Fox 4 Kansas City if you're in the Kansas City area, or just follow my X feed. I always tweet out the streaming streaming link. But 11 p.m. Central Time every Wednesday. Be on there with Harold Kuntz or Rob Collins. So check us out.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Charles. Thank you all for listening. We are officially in Chiefs football week. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be kind to each other, and we will catch you later.